Today on Expert Connections, we're talking with a founder who says she can change the world through her brand new tech platform, offering something for those in the disabled community and a return on investment for her financial backers. It's all today as part of our series through the Lansing Regional Smart Zone. Expert Connections starts now. Today's Startup Connections story features a founder who wants to change the world with her brand new tech platform. Welcome to Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. This story, part of our ongoing series featuring the Lansing Regional Smart Zone and the high-tech, high-growth stories happening there. Meegan Winters is the CEO and co-founder of AbleVu, a platform providing accessibility information. It's actually an expansion project launched from her first startup, Able Eyes, which provides virtual tours, again, to help those with disabilities and special needs learn about spaces before they go. Meegan, all of this was sparked during an idea that you had during your many years as a special education teacher, as a school principal. Walk us back through that. First of all, welcome to the show. I'm so
Thank
excited to
you.
dive in that I'm just like going for it. Walk us through where this idea came from that took you personally out of the school system and into the startup world.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, first of all. Um, and I love telling this story. So I was a special education teacher for many years. I worked specifically with students on the autism spectrum. So that is one area that I'm super, super passionate about. When I was teaching, I just realized a need in the world that families who that had a child on the spectrum or with any disability seem to not be like having the same types of experiences as families that don't have a child with a disability. Like they aren't going out in their community, they aren't traveling the same way other families are. And we would go on field trips, and time after time after time, I would hear parents say, "Oh, that's her first time at a restaurant," or "That's his first time at the movies," or "her first time at the apple orchard." And I just remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is something that I take for granted that I can just do that so easily with my kids, and that's just not everybody's reality." So that was my like identification of the problem. And I'm like, okay, there has to be a solution to this problem. I had no idea what that solution was at that time. Um, like the Americans with Disabilities Act is obviously a law in place that ensures that public places are accessible for people with physical disabilities, but we don't have anything for people with invisible disabilities, which is a huge chunk of the population. The most recent statistic is almost 27% of the population has some form of physical or invisible disability, and 80% of that 27% is invisible disabilities. So, like, what could be like the tool that helps those families access their community and travel? That was one piece of it. The other piece is that I had a best friend, Jessica, who was, she had muscular dystrophy and was a wheelchair user. Her and I lived together at college. We went to Central Michigan University, and we
Fire up,
had a
Chip.
fire up chips. We had a fabulous experience. However, when I look back on that experience, I think, man, we really went to the same few places over and over again. And we did that because we knew that she could get in the door, that she could navigate around, and that she could use the restroom. And had we had information about other places, we would have certainly had more experiences, and more businesses would have gotten our business and our money. And so it's like a win-win situation. Um, so eventually, what I came to the conclusion of was that what people are missing is information. Like that's what, in both of those scenarios, people were missing information and therefore missing out on experiences. So yeah, that's the journey of like how the idea started.
So the whole idea is to be able to allow for more people to have these experiences by giving them the information in advance to be able to know what they're going to encounter as a mother with a son with special needs, cognitive disabilities. I can tell you in firsthand, and you and I have had many conversations about this, the ability to prepare in advance and to, for someone who needs a plan in place and needs to know what he's going to encounter when he gets there. These are the things that many people who are abled do not even realize. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes those with some of the invisible disabilities, they may not even realize how much a tool like this could help. I was talking with someone, total side note, I'll get back to your founder story, was talking with someone who heard your episode of our Think Tank of Three podcast, which focuses on women sharing their stories. You shared your story there. And someone later was mentioning to me, just as someone who had knee surgery, she wanted to know what to expect. And just as
Mhm.
someone in general who likes to know what to expect. So, talk us through just super briefly so that people have an idea of what Able Eyes does, separate from AbleVu. Let's
Mhm.
talk about Able Eyes first. What does Able Eyes do in order to provide people that look, if you will, into a space before they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this was kind of the starting point. I guess back to my starting story. My friend Jessica, she unfortunately passed away in 2015 as a result of her muscular dystrophy, and that was really like my wake up call. That was my like kick in the rear that I needed to say, like, Meegan, go do this thing that you have been like dreaming about for so many years. And so the initial idea was that what if every business had a virtual tour and they could see and walk through and navigate the space ahead of time? And a little bit differently than, I mean, any virtual tour is helpful, but what if you just expand that lens a little bit and start it in the parking lot and the pathway to the door, and then inside of a business and go into the restrooms and show the accessible stall? I mean, that's really not, it's only a few extra pictures to include those extra spaces that would again attract over a quarter of the population and their loved ones. So that was that's what Able Eyes is a virtual tour photography company. We provide virtual tours all over the US for this purpose. It's also a great marketing tool for businesses just in general. Like, it's been used in the marketing world for years and years. So it's something they put on their website, and it's going to really attract all customers. So that's the original vision with Able Eyes.
Meegan, what types of challenges did you first encounter, if any, when you were setting out wanting to turn this into a reality?
That I knew nothing about anything. I obviously have education background in education, and I didn't know how to start a business, run a business, create an invoice, do sales. Like, I knew nothing. And so I like to just say that I taught myself through Google and YouTube, and I just learned how to become a business owner. Um, that was like on the business side, those were my struggles. On the product side, or for the mission side, it took me a little while to understand how to pitch this to a business. So of course I come at it from such a personal place. And so I see it as like, this is going to help so many people. It's going to be so great for the world, and it's going to help people with disabilities access your business. And, uh, you know, businesses would say, oh, this is a really great idea. They were very supportive and very kind, but didn't necessarily like what budget would, like, what does that mean? Like, what kind of budget would they use to pay for something like that? And I had to kind of swallow my pride on that and flip that narrative a little bit and say, look, this is an incredible marketing tool, period. However, if you expand this lens just a little bit, you are really marketing to this population of people that is never marketed to. Like, I sometimes say, like, how many apps and things are out there for people who are vegan and people who love dogs and people, like, there are resources out there for tons and tons of groups of people that like the same things, but we don't have an information platform for people with disabilities, which is, so it's, one of the most underserved populations. And there's a ton of disposable income to be spent from that population. So I've had to educate myself on the financial benefits for the businesses. And so that took me a little bit of time to just get out of my heart. Not that I'm ever out of my heart, but I had to like move from my heart to my brain a little bit.
Absolutely. Sure. Like looking at the messages and how to actually speak to the business owner and turn the script around, as you were saying, in a way that your pitch now affects them and their ability to market their business and looking at it through their viewpoint, which totally makes sense as you're working on market penetration and growth. I want to talk about your evolution now into the next phase or the next company, if you will, the next startup that you're working on. So the initial startup, Able Eyes, ongoing, continuing. This provides the virtual tours. Tell us about AbleVu, this technology platform that you're working on, and how your kind of idea is beginning to evolve and take shape into a new component.
Yeah, absolutely. So at one point in the Able Eyes journey, like realized that this is a great idea, but if we want to impact the world, like if we want this to impact millions and millions and millions of people across the world, virtual tours are not a scalable business. It's a service, it's a boots on the ground service, it requires human beings. Like it would be very, very difficult to scale a company that requires human beings at that level and with that skill set. Um, so what we decided to do was create a tech platform that could integrate virtual tours, but it's not the only thing. So we launched AbleVu the beginning of last year. It is our MVP, which is a minimum viable product, which just means that it's an inexpensive, starting point for us to just kind of test out the product and make sure that we have customers and users and figure out like exactly what we need to do to grow and build. Um, and what it is and how I describe it is it's the Yelp of accessibility information. It's a way for businesses to share their accessibility information and accommodations um, with that 27% of the population that has some form of disability. So it becomes a really inexpensive marketing tool for those businesses. One of the recent things I've been saying is for $299 a year and 20 minutes of your time, you can attract this huge portion of the population into your business. So these profiles are created by the businesses, so we're not rating, judging, critiquing them. It's very much information, just that everyone has different needs. Somebody with autism has different needs than somebody who is blind or low vision, who's different from somebody who's a wheelchair user. So a profile includes things like a business name, description, of course. And then if they have a virtual tour, they can have that on their profile. They can add pictures and text information. We have a list of accessibility features that they just kind of turn on what they have, turn off what they don't. Again, we're not showing what they don't have, saying that they're doing anything wrong. And then there's also a place for people to ask questions directly to the business if they would like to. And that is, again, empowered by the businesses. So the businesses can make that information public if they choose. Like if it's, do you allow service animals, which every place should allow service animals. But let's say that's the question. And the business says, yes, we allow service animals. Here's the criteria stated by the law. They just post that and it becomes part of their profile. So as people ask questions, it just becomes more and more information that lives there. And then if the business chooses not to, make something public, they have the power to do that as well.
Securing funding can be a major hurdle for some startups. Now we're talking about building out a application. You started with your MVP, as you said, kind of the simplest version to be able to both test and show users what it's going to look
Mhm.
like, but it's not the full platform. So, from a funding aspect, talk to us about your decisions with AbleVu and even Able Eyes. What led into your decisions on to seek funding or not seek funding? Talk us through that process for you.
Yeah, so we're at this space where we are generating revenue, um, but we're also limited by this platform that we're on now. Like for example, our map where all the businesses live can only host 1,000, maybe 1,500 businesses before it's like maxed out. So we have to. So there's no code technology, which is like just a pre-boxed. Like here is a website, make it your own. Like you can drop your own things in it. And then there's low code, which you can do some with, and then there is custom development. So this is a no code platform. So like the things that we are restricted on, like we are restricted on. Um, and so we are at a space where there's like we just can't build out where we're at. So we have decided to we originally were actually going to go to low code and then to custom, down the road. But we decided, you know what? Like, why wait? Why build one more thing and then build one more thing after that? Let's just build the thing. So it obviously has a higher price tag with it when you're building something custom and developers and a development team. So we have decided to raise funds from investors. It has been I keep saying this is, and I love it when I'm sitting here in my office that has a mountain in the background. And I always keep saying it's just been a taller mountain than I anticipated. It just was a learning curve. I built AbleVu. I was like, I can do anything. I can build anything. I can learn anything. Like I can do this thing. But the learning curve was challenging just to like learn the language and the lingo and what's expected. And so it has been a journey, and I'm grateful for again the learning.
Tell us, a lot of founders end up in this position where they're seeking funding and they've never been in this world before, and a lot of founders get into whatever their startup is, having come from someplace else. You came from the world of education and
Mhm.
your background in working with those with disabilities and special needs. And so, like you mentioned off the top of the show, business was not your background, and now you're saying seeking funding was not in your background. Many founders are in this position. What's one piece of advice you have? What has helped you, because you've been able to secure funding, you're moving forward through this process? What has been most beneficial for you?
So although I could have done it earlier, I'm really grateful that I did this one thing. So I would say if a founder thinks that they are ever going to uh, decide to raise funds, to spend a period of time like 3, maybe 6 months, just talking to people, just learning from others who have been through this. I spent about 3 months before I never even asked for a dollar. During these 3 months of just like meeting with people who do invest, talking with people that invest, whether that's a VC or an angel investor, um, talking to people who have taken on investors and what their experience was and what their tips and tricks and things were. And um, networking. Like there's a lot, and this is newer to me too. There are a lot of tech networks, startup networks in Michigan, and I'm sure in every state. And so getting connected with those networks is really, really beneficial to like learn. So I would say learn before asking for a dollar. Spend that 3 to 6 months just understanding the lingo of what ARR is and MRR is and what pre-seed and seed and series A and like what all these different things mean. And that'd be my biggest piece of advice.
Okay, so before we kind of wrap up here, there is something that I find extra special about what you're building with AbleVu. And this has to do with who is able to create profiles on this platform. Tell our audience about this really cool aspect.
Yeah, so with the next version of this platform, which is what we're raising funds for, we are creating what we're right now calling a contributor model. And that is a way for people with disabilities or without, but I really get excited about it being people with disabilities, being able to use this as a form of generating income for themselves. So let's say someone with a disability goes to a coffee shop and that coffee shop doesn't have an AbleVu profile. So they would be able to take a few pictures, create a profile, submit it. It would remain locked on our profile or on our map. We would send the business an email that says, a visitor with a disability has visited your business. They enjoyed their experience and would like to share it with others. They've started a profile for you. Would you like to accept it, change it, edit it, and open it and unlock it for $299 a year, which the pricing may change a little bit in this next round too, or might have a tiered process or something. And if they unlock it, that person would get a payout for creating that profile. So, um, 30, I think it's 35% or 33% is what we currently have. So it's around $100. So for that 20 minutes, that person that doesn't have the same opportunities for employment could make $100. And so it's very Uberish. It's empowering. It just be something that somebody is doing in their just everyday life, and they can make money doing it. And like I said, it like lights my soul on fire to like think about just that full circle of this thing that's going to help millions and millions of people, and that it's also an employment opportunity for millions and millions of people. And so yeah, that's where we're headed, and that's our scaling plan for the future. And so that puts us like a sales team of one to a sales team of infinite people out there creating profiles.
Meegan, talking with world changers are my favorite on this show. And so I love hearing your story, love hearing you guide us through this. Wishing you the best as you're working on funding and looking forward to seeing those next steps for you. Before we go, one final maybe piece of advice for any aspiring entrepreneurs or startup founders who want to start a business with a strong social mission. And I say social mission, and I don't mean to, I
Mhm.
feel like that waters down what you're doing. Like as if like social issues are these light issues in the world, they are not. They are life-changing issues. But other founders who maybe have an idea that they haven't moved on yet, what's your advice for them?
Again, I would go back to, educating yourself on, and because I do think that there is, especially when you're talking to investors, I think that there can be a divide, and not that investors are bad people at all. Like it's just when you think of social issues, I think a lot of investors don't think, oh, well, this is their job is to make their money back. Like that's the person that you're talking to. Their job is to make the funds back for that fund. Like that's so like I understand that. But when they see a social issue or hear a social issue, you really have to have a strong case for your scaling. Like, how is this business going to make money back to this fund or bring money back into, multiply in what they invested into the company? So, um, that again, like back to my experience with AbleEyes and really having to release, like, not release, but express my passion in a different way. It puts you back up into your brain of like, how is this thing going to make money? And how is it going to also impact people?
And what a win-win to have something that can both make money and change lives. That is what this world needs. Meegan, loved having you on the show. Thank you for sharing your story. We will link to AbleVu in our show notes so everyone can check out what you're doing with your tech platform, as well as Able Eyes. Everyone, if you don't already have a virtual tour of your space that includes accessibility, then check out Able Eyes for more information on that. Meegan, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Today's startup founder knows a thing or two about hitting turbulence. She launched a travel technology company shortly before COVID pretty much grounded all business travel. It's one of many twists and turns that she says set her on the right path as part of our series through the Lansing Regional Smart Zone. Expert Connections starts now. Could you imagine talking with 5 or 6,000 potential customers, not necessarily for sales, but for discovery? Imagine what a difference that would make for your business. Welcome to Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. This story, part of our ongoing series featuring the Lansing Regional Smart Zone. Our expert startup connections today, founder Lisa Simpkins of Deal Captains Travel Technology. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thanks for having me, Julie. Very excited to be here.
Lisa, there are a lot of exciting things happening in your world. You are working on a new application, a new brand, a new name for this app. But let's start back at the beginning and the challenge that you set out to really come up with the solution for with Deal Captains Travel Technology. Take us back to the beginning. What was the inspiration behind launching your startup?
Deal Cabins was started back in 2019, right before the pandemic, literally. Um, I stepped back from the business travel world where I've had a 30-year career. And I was frustrated with business travelers, you know, having issues with booking their travel, forced to use mundane, old, cryptic online booking tools. They didn't have much support on the road, and really they just wanted to book on the sites that they preferred to book on, so the delta.coms and all the direct travel vendor supplier sites. So I started out building a cloud-based application that would allow business travelers to book and manage their travel the way they want to, and not be forced to have to use the old tools that are out there. Travel industry is a very, very slow to innovate industry. And so really my focus was to, come up with a solution that business travelers wanted, and would actually use. So that's kind of how I got started. I've kind of taken many twists and turns along the way. I ended up hiring several employees. We did a big push with some of the travel technology partners and built out a platform for business travelers called DCX Travel. And it really was a mix of the latest cloud-based travel technology that was available at that time, infused with high-touch personalized service. We sold that for 18 months, maybe years, and it really kind of fell flat in the marketplace because we were just reusing the same technology that was already out there. There was nothing really earth-shattering or different about it. So I took a pause, took a step back in late 2022, early 23, and started planning the application. So that's where we're at right now. We've got our brand new app that will be launching this year, and we've done a ton of discovery calls with potential users. We've talking with well over 6,000 people, business travelers mainly, travel managers, executive assistants, who have given us their insight as to the tools that they want to use in an application instead of having to use their travel agency's archaic junk that's out there.
Okay, so I want to get into this app in just a moment, but first, it's not lost on me that you said you launched in 2019. Of course, 2020, we all know COVID hit. You have had so much turbulence, so to speak, pivot after pivot after pivot. One thing that just stood out as you were talking is talking about how when after you launched and you were successfully running for 18 months, maybe 2 years, but you felt that the technology wasn't quite there. You weren't quite doing enough different in the market than others were doing. Talk about that a little bit. How did you start to gain that recognition? Because I think a lot of startups go through this where you have an initial idea and you're going to, make your place, make room for yourself in the market. But then once things get going, how different are you? Are you different enough? What's going to help you to build? Or do you need to, take a full assessment and regroup? So talk us through that stage.
Yes, that has happened multiple times. So taking a pause and regrouping, and admitting that something is not working or failed, is huge. I'm the type of person that, if it's not working, I change, right? I gotta keep going in order to find that thing that's gonna work in the marketplace. The travel technology that is out there right now, everyone's been scrambling to get to a point where they're not utilizing old artifact technology. So the airlines still use artifact technology for their booking systems, which is crazy. They have been, that's like 1980s code. So getting working alongside of different partners, and utilizing the newer technology that is out there, which is called NDC, New Distribution Capabilities. It's more of a direct API into the travel content that the suppliers offer. That has been in the works for well over 10 years and is still not perfected. And so everything that we've done or I've done, had a theme around it of allowing the traveler to book direct on the sites that they want. So going out to your delta.com, going out to united.com, going to Marriott, that's where travelers love to book. They get extra points and perks by going direct because the suppliers now really love the loyalty, stickiness. So that is our vision, is building an application that will integrate all of those direct sites into the application so that the traveler doesn't miss out on any of those great perks.
Absolutely. And it's kind of that idea of the business traveler is still a person who wants the perks of each of those sites, as you discussed. Okay, I want to ask you a couple of these W questions, right? So let's get into the meat of this a little bit so that we can hear what this app is going to do. So first of all, what is this app? Tell us, what exactly will it allow people to do?
Well, what it will allow is, we've determined that, there's 1.3 million business travelers on the road every day. And 65% of them book direct on the airline and travel supplier websites. So what we've done is integrated the direct applications into the app so that business travelers have access to their travel profiles, their family travel profiles. They have access to their corporate booking site for Sky Miles for Business or United for Business, and also car rentals, Uber, Lyft, anything that really touches travel that the traveler could utilize in an application, we're integrating directly into the app. Now, they'll also have all the information of their business trips. They'll have, and that's available online and offline. That is a huge struggle for business travelers, is they get to a location, they can't get on their app, right? They haven't downloaded their itinerary. They don't know their hotel confirmation, and they don't have internet service, right? So, or Wi-Fi or mobile service. So that was a challenge. So we're integrating everything so that it's available offline, so that the travelers have access to it anytime. And then we're integrating the Microsoft Copilot, as well as some of the Microsoft tools that are available for travelers. Say, we have our application will allow the traveler to go into Hey Nellie and take a look at, put in some AI prompts that will help them create an itinerary. So, for instance, I want to go to Denver, going for a concert. I have a business trip. I want to commingle those together. By the way, while I'm there, I want to go to a national park. All of that information they can put into Nellie, and it will create them an itinerary and make recommendations of places to go, see, do, hotel recommendations, flight recommendations. It's really a really cool new way to, allow the traveler to create the journey that they want.
Sounds like a really holistic way of being able to capture all of the things you want to do when you're traveling. How often do people travel for business and then they're adding in an extra couple of days? They're maybe bringing a spouse or someone along, and then they have other things they want to do. So tell us, Lisa, who will be using this app? Who does this target?
This targets the small to mid-sized business traveler who works for a company that either A, doesn't see a value in using a travel management company or a managed travel service because of the expense, or a rogue business traveler within an organization that has a corporate travel program that 9 times out of 10 doesn't even book within that program. So we know that 80% of business travelers don't stay within their business travel program. They book outside. They call it leakage in their travel programs. And so that is our main target. We're also building out a version of it for executive assistants who book and manage multiple travelers. They're flipping between 80 million different apps. Takes them average about 20 hours to book a business trip for executives. So we're building out a version of the application specifically for them that will, integrate all of their executives into one place, have the itineraries, the calendar integration, pretty much everything that they need, as well as like a pre-trip checklist and, all kinds of really cool functionality that isn't available today in any application for travel. We're also looking at integrating a meetings and events version of it. So for instance, you want to research and book a meeting for 100 people to say Cancun. You can put that information into Hey Nellie and it'll give you all these really cool recommendations.
Lisa, it seems like from layman me, it seems like the ecosystem can be a little saturated when as an individual I go online and I want to look up flights, or maybe I'm looking at potential vacation destinations, or if I'm going to do some business travel but want to also integrate some of these other things that you've been talking about. There are a lot of websites out there, and really even that can be overwhelming, right? But what I'm curious about is what truly sets your app apart? What really makes it different in the marketplace than what already exists?
What makes us different is we're able to, although the travelers have the ability to book and manage their business travel on whatever site they want and bring that data back into Nellie so that they have a 360 view of all of their travel plans and what they need. We also support the traveler on the road with live, high touch traveler services on the background. Um, Most, as a matter of fact, all travel management companies, if you don't book your travel directly with them, they don't want anything to do with you and will not support you on the road. We don't care where you book your travel. Just integrate it into our tool and we'll take care of the rest for you. So if you're flying and you've got nowadays you get a connect or your flight's been canceled, you're on a connection, you get to a hotel and they've oversold the hotel, just give us a call. We'll take care of it for you.
Hey Nellie is a pretty interesting name for your application. Tell us about, this is a rebrand. This is brand new since I last even talked to you. Tell us where this name came from. It's a pretty cool story.
Yeah. So, my vision has always been to bring this application to life, right? And make it something that, travelers could converse with and interact with and have fun with. And as I was doing some research, I did come across some. I was looking at explorers and female explorers specifically, and I came across a very interesting lady named Nellie Bly, who was an explorer and a journalist in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Now, Nellie was a trailblazer. She's widely known for a record-breaking trip where she was the first female to go around the world in 72 days. She went on to be an American investigative journalist. She wrote 10 Days in a Madhouse and pioneered other things in the journalism industry. And then ended up she also was a businesswoman that took over her husband's business when he passed away. So it really kind of resonated with me and my journey as that, I've been on this journey. I've been, a pioneer, and a trailblazer in a lot of the things that I've done in my career. I was the first female mayor of a small town in Utah, which, that was crazy, in an all male world out in Utah. And so it really just resonated with me. So Nellie Bly is really the story behind it. And so we are rebranding this month under the name of Hey Nellie. And so Hey Nellie will be the app. And we're going back to our origins of the company name of Deal Captains Travel Technology.
I love this. There's so many elements to this that I love. Part of your rebrand. Can't wait to see how Hey Nellie starts to come together as you're building this application with the new name. And for those who want to hear more about the personal side of your journey as a woman startup founder who's made many pivots in your startup journey, but also in your career, you mentioned, being the mayor of a brand new town in Utah. We talked about that actually on my podcast, The Think Tank of Three. And so I'll link to that below as well. Lisa, you have a lot that's happening right now. What are you most excited about in the coming months?
I am most excited about getting this application to life. This has been a very long journey. And so, getting the application out in the marketplace, getting feedback, getting users on board to test it and play with it, give us recommendations, we'll build it for you. Really that is what I'm most excited for. The pandemic really hit the travel industry hard, but travel is still not back 100% to where it was before. So I'm excited to get the millennials to use it, all different generations to use it. We're part of the MSU Mentor in Residence program at Michigan State, and getting feedback from a lot of the students of today who are the business travelers of tomorrow has really been an inspiration as well. So that is really what I am most excited for this year in 2024, is to bring this thing to life.
So we have such a great ecosystem, startup ecosystem here, but with MSU, the Greater Lansing region, the Lansing Regional Smart Zone, you're part of their group as well. Lisa,
Yep.
love watching as you navigate through all of these pivots, and really excited to see what comes in the next couple of months. We'll be cheering you on for sure. So I want to ask you about all of these discovery calls. You mentioned, talking to more than 6,000 people. Oftentimes when we talk to startups on this show, one thing that's missing that they don't learn until way later, that they always wish they would have known sooner, was to make those discovery calls, to talk to their potential customer, to talk to their end user. So tell us about that process. What made you seek out, talking to that many people, and what have you learned through the process?
Part of it was as we were trying to sell the product that we had previously built. We touched well over 6,000. We did outreaches of well over 6,000 people. Conversations definitely with at least, I would say, one-on-one conversations of at least 5,000. And really, it solidified the vision of, okay, what we're selling. It's like trying to fit a square block into a round hole, right? And it just came out in a vision that, look, this isn't working, right? So the discovery calls, what we really found out was that business travelers start their journey at Google. Almost 90% of them started, going to google.com. Google Flights. As I started, going through the process and asking those questions, and then what I ended up doing was during that 18 months, 2 years, I stopped trying to sell because I wanted them to just start talking. And so that's where we got a lot of the input, a lot of the feedback. I would have never have thought that a business traveler would have needed access to their itinerary offline. I thought that was a given, right? I thought that, everybody loaded their books or downloaded their app, their itinerary. Not so much. Also, one of the key things that came out was the prominence of the bleisure. So the business with leisure. Almost every person that we spoke to, at least once to 2 times a year, integrates that. They always want to stay over the weekend in the location that they're doing business in and experience the culture and the uniqueness of where they're at, or take in a concert or a show, or go skiing for the weekend. So a lot of the discovery that we did, although it was mostly for selling a product to them, we really just kind of sat back and started just listening and kept track of all of the different features that business travelers wanted but didn't have today, or had to use 5 different apps to get to what they needed. So integrating it all of that into one place, it's a one-stop shop for them.
I also know you have a lot of connections with the airlines. What's their feedback on what you're developing?
They absolutely love it. So we already have Southwest Airlines on board. We are in discussions with them. Delta is evaluating it. And United Airlines we're also in discussions with. What they've never had before is a partner that is integrating their site. They want the stickiness with the customer, and so we're utilizing that, right? We're tagging on to that, because the loyalty, we know every business traveler is a points junkie. Integrating all of the frequent flyers into one place so that they have all of their points on one dashboard is another key component of what we've integrated. And so, they can just take a look on the app as to how many points they can go and how they can leverage them and utilize them. That's a total game changer in the marketplace. To sign up for Nellie, to join the wait list, you can go to www.heynellie.co.
HeyNellie.co. We will link to that in our show notes. Lisa, thank you for being on the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
That's all for this episode of Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. Be sure to hit subscribe to catch the next expert in our Expert Connections series. If you want more startup stories, stay tuned for the next video. That is all for this episode of Expert Connections. Stay tuned for the next video in our Startups Connection series. I will see you next time.